Part 25. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 241. The immortal king only wants to annex the immortal realm, complete the 10,000 laws of the dark realm, and help them break through to a higher realm. Now, Qin Mu only had one question that remained unanswered. Why are there so many immortal kings born in the dark realm, far more than the immortal realm? This place is already the deepest part of the dark realm. If there is a secret, it should be hidden here. Qin Mu restrained his breath and stood quietly among the temples of the immortal kings, quietly comprehending and observing. Finally, he seemed to have something, and looked in the direction of one of the temples. Divine light flashed in his eyes, and he seemed to have finally discovered something. It was an ancient temple surrounded by endless black air. At first glance, it seemed no different from other temples of the immortal king. But if you look closely, you can see that this ancient temple is faintly located in the center of the immortal king's temples, surrounded by other immortal king's temples. And this temple is different from other temples of the immortal king. In other temples of the immortal king, the aura of the immortal king exists. No matter whether it is powerful or hidden, Qin Mu can sense it. Even for those immortal kings who are not in the temple at the moment, Qin Mu can still feel the aura of the immortal king from the temple of the immortal king. But this temple of the immortal king is different. The ancient temple is simple, natural, and majestic, but there is no aura related to the immortal king. In other words, it encompasses all the immortal kings, encompasses everything in the realm of darkness, and is the embodiment of all the laws and creatures in the world. Looking at this ancient temple, Qin Mu's eyes seemed to have the entire realm of darkness emerging. The mark of Tianxin in the dark realm. Qin Mu whispered to himself, with a look of solemnity and understanding in his eyes. If he had not been a quasi-immortal emperor and had not transcended this world, he would not have been able to see through this. But now, he can vaguely see it. This temple of the immortal king does not belong to any immortal king, but to the entire dark realm. In other words, it is the embodiment of the world consciousness of the dark realm, and is the mark of Tianxin in this world. In the lower world, with Tianxin, if the marks are matched, one can achieve the supreme position of the supreme Dao. But in this dark realm, which is countless times wider than the lower world, even the immortal king is not qualified to match the mark of Tianxin. The majestic power of the world is not the immortal king, or the immortal king can carry it. But now, the Tianxin mark of the dark realm has emerged independently. All the immortal kings and ancestors are surrounding the Tianxin mark. According to Qin Mu's guess, the immortal king of the dark realm is like this. There are so many secrets, it is very likely that they are related to the Tianxin mark of the dark realm. Perhaps it is the choice of the dark realm world. It also wants to annex the immortal realm and perfect and complete itself, so it has created so many immortal kings. Hope that they can accomplish this goal for themselves. Conscious world awareness, interesting, really interesting. Qin Mu muttered to himself as he looked at the ancient temple. If he were not a quasi-immortal emperor and had mastered the unparalleled method of concealment, I am afraid that he would really be discovered by the world consciousness of the dark territory. If the dark territory really annexed in the immortal realm, what will happen when the two realms merge? Although Qin Mu does not know, he knows that the result will not be good. Even these immortal kings may encounter unexpected events. In the dark realm, at any cost, gather the Tianxin seal to help every creature in the dark realm break through to the realm of the immortal king. In the final analysis, these breakthroughs require the entire dark realm's foundation. Planning for endless opportunities, even these immortal kings have been deceived by you. Has the entire world gained its own consciousness? Qin Mu sighed. In his eyes, there was a torrent in the sky above the ancient temple that could not be seen by the naked eye, turning into hundreds of millions of black threads, connected with all the creatures and things in the entire dark realm. Continue. After observing for a while, Qin Mu left quietly. For him, the realm of darkness no longer had too many secrets. The top priority right now is to continue to accumulate more shock points and strive to push his cultivation level to the realm of the immortal emperor. Because Qin Mu had a vague hunch in his heart that in the current situation, the cultivation level of the quasi-immortal emperor is not enough. He must break through to the realm of the immortal emperor in order to truly have the ability and confidence to suppress everything. System, how many shock points do I need to spend to break through to the immortal emperor realm? Qin Mu couldn't help calling out the system and asked. The current state of the host is quasi-immortal emperor. Breaking through to the next state immortal emperor requires spending 10 billion shock points. 10 billion shock points? Qin Mu clicked his tongue. Although this shock point was a lot, it was not too unexpected. Tens of billions of shock points really require careful planning. Well, what will it be like after the realm breaks through to the immortal emperor? I am looking forward. Qin Mu laughed. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 242. 10 billion shock points is really a big number. Even for Qin Mu, it is not easy to harvest so many shock points. If you want to harvest so many shock points, you must involve as much noise as possible. Well, you also need to plan carefully. Qin Mu returned to the immortal realm and murmured to himself. He now has 500 million shock points, and for a while he wanted to arrange the kind of secret realm that could shock the entire immortal realm. These shock points are a bit unsatisfactory. But if arranging the secret realm bit by bit and slowly accumulating shock points would take too long. Therefore, Qin Mu still needs to plan carefully to see how to arrange it in order to maximize the benefits in the shortest time. Accumulate enough shock points you need. You received shocking points at 325,545 from Chenqiu. You received a shocking point of at 545,845 from Yejug. You received shocking points at 588,745 from Gu Wuchen. You received from. Just as Qin Mu was thinking, he suddenly found that the shock points on his panel began to rise. In just a few moments, the number of shock points increased by nearly 100 million. Huh? Qin Mu's voice was slightly surprised. On the edge of the immortal realm, the secret realm he had arranged has come to an end. Where did this shocking point come from? Could it be that? Qin Mu's eyes were concentrated and he looked at the vast immortal realm behind him. Domain, his consciousness instantly dispersed, radiating infinitely far, encompassing the entire immortal domain, exploring everything in the entire immortal domain. After a moment, he seemed to have found his target, and in a flash, he spanned hundreds of millions of miles, heading towards the deepest part of the fairyland. A few months ago, in the immortal realm, Taixuan immortal dynasty, in King Xian city. After King Xian returned, he personally erected the immortal monument obtained from the wilderness on the edge of the immortal realm at the core of Xianwang city for countless beings in the immortal realm to look up to. Afterwards, he met the Lotus King and told him everything he saw in the wilderness on the edge of the immortal realm. The two immortal kings were both shocked by what happened on the border of the immortal realm. But at the same time, I was also wary. After all, the strength of the dark realm is so strong that both the immortal king and the prodigy of the same generation seem to be far superior to the immortal realm. This is undoubtedly very bad news for Xianyu. Peace in the immortal realm has been going on for too long. All the creatures have lost their vigilance and it is difficult to travel on the immortal road. I want to reopen the competition in all areas, hone the talents of all areas, select the best among them, and cultivate them. That's exactly what I meant. With just a few words, King Xian and King Lotus decided on this plan to reopen the competition between the various domains and hone the geniuses of the immortal domain. The competition between the geniuses of the various domains is an ancient tradition passed down from ancient times in the immortal domain. But now for several epochs, the immortal king did not appear, and the competition between the geniuses of various realms was gradually deserted as no one managed it. The immortal realm is so vast that even a generation of geniuses will find it difficult to leave any of the immortal dynasties throughout their lives. This will undoubtedly lose the opportunity to communicate and learn from the geniuses of other regions, and it will also be extremely detrimental to the growth of many geniuses in the immortal realm. Therefore, King Xian plans to reopen the genius competition of various regions to truly hone the geniuses of the immortal realm and create a batch of real materials that can be made. In this case, I will open up the passages in various domains and lay down some secret realms. After King Xian said this, he began to take action. If you want the geniuses from all regions to discuss and communicate, setting up a large formation that can communicate with all regions is the most important thing. And the layout of this large formation can only be arranged by the strong ones in the immortal king realm. Only by __ when the dark realm returned to the immortal realm, it was the time when the fairy realm's prodigy competition was in full swing. Lotus King Domain, an ancient secret territory. Many geniuses are exploring and fighting in the secret realm, seeking the fortune in the secret realm. At this moment, soul-shaking terrifying fluctuations are constantly emanating from the secret realm. Many geniuses are scattered all over the secret realm, their eyes are looking somewhere, and they are full of strange colors. It's unimaginable that Yang Qi is not this person's opponent. Yang Qi swept across the entire younger generation of the Lotus King realm, and was about to seek respect in this realm and conquer other realms. He did not expect to meet such a woman. Astonishingly talented and beautiful, I have never heard of such an existence in King Lotus domain. The immortal realm is vast, could it be that they are geniuses who have crossed over from other realms? The thoughts of many geniuses converged, and they were full of shock and inexplicable meaning. Everything was just because of what was happening in this secret realm at this moment. In the Lotus King territory, Yang Qi, the strongest genius of the younger generation, who had defeated all parties, originally entered this secret realm, looking for good fortune within. With his strength and talent, he naturally wants to occupy the greatest good fortune in this secret realm. And many other geniuses, knowing how powerful Yang Qi is, naturally dare not compete with him. But unexpectedly, right there when Yang Qi was about to be blessed, a woman in white appeared and fought with Yang Qi. Although the battle is not over now, it still shocks many geniuses. Because the power of the gods is unparalleled in the Lotus King's domain, sweeping all directions, Yang Qi, the proud man, was being pressed down and beaten by the woman in white who suddenly appeared. What kind of woman was she? The white clothes moved, her green hair danced, as clear as an immortal, and a mask with a ghostly face quietly covered her. The jade-like cheeks covered the jade-like face. It was none other than the ruthless emperor. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 243. How could I not know when such a genius appeared in the King Lotus domain? In the ancient secret realm, a man with an upright posture, an ancient face, and an aura of endless majesty was confronting the ruthless emperor above the sky, his eyes full of solemnity and incredulity. He is Yang Qi, and he is a well-known being among the younger generation of the entire Lotus King territory. He has been fighting in the Lotus King territory for hundreds of years, and has almost swept the younger generation of the Lotus King territory. Now the immortal kings are about to hold a competition among the geniuses of the immortal realm, and he is even more ready to compete. He left the Lotus King realm and went to other realms. He defeated the geniuses from all directions and used his invincible fighting power to gather the capital to attack the immortal king realm. But who would have thought that before he left the Lotus King realm, he had already met his opponent, and he is still a powerful enemy. A few days ago, this secret realm was born, and it contains a great creation that even the powerful people in the true immortal realm would be excited about. Yang Qi came after hearing the news, defeated all the geniuses, and broke into the depths of the secret realm, hoping to monopolize the creation here. Yang Qi's name has been spread in King Lian's domain for a long time. He is coming with full force. Naturally, no one dares to compete with him. Fight. But who would have thought that just when he was about to take that good fortune into his pocket, a woman in white appeared and wanted to compete with him for this good fortune. Yang Qi was naturally unafraid and swung out his palm at will, preparing to repel this blind opponent and monopolize this place. But the result surprised him extremely. The opponent also slapped him with a palm, which not only shattered his attack, but even shook his body and made him unsteady. Such a scene shocked Yang Qi, but it also aroused the fighting spirit in his heart, so he fought against the ruthless emperor. But after a fight, he discovered that not only was he unable to gain any advantage over the other party, but he was in danger of being overpowered by the other party. I have been fighting in the Lotus King domain for hundreds of years. If there is such a genius in this domain, I should know about it. Come to think of it, you are not the genius of this domain, but you crossed over from other places. Coincidentally, I no longer have any opponents in the Lotus King domain. After thinking about what happened here, I will go to other domains and fight enemies from 10 directions to accumulate the resources to become an immortal king. Today, you are my whetstone. Yang Qilang said in a loud voice, and the majestic fighting spirit came out of his body, shaking all directions. The power of the ruthless emperor not only did not make him afraid at all, but also made him have endless fighting spirit. War! 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 Yang Qi shouted angrily, with majestic fighting spirit sweeping through the sky. Behind him, a majestic shadow condensed by endless fighting spirit slowly formed. It was an ancient god of war, 1,000,000 feet tall, wearing a immortal gold armor, even his face is covered under the armor. He has thousands of arms. Each arm holds a magic weapon in his hand, and each one is different. Among them are knives, swords, axes, towers, and cauldrons. The ancient shadow is majestic, like a god of war, standing between heaven and earth, exuding a terrifying and unparalleled fighting spirit. It's the War King's projection. Oh my god, Yang Qi's battle network projection has actually condensed to such an extent. If he can take another step forward, he might be able to break through the cage, break the true immortal barrier, and become the first god of war in the immortal realm. Since Yang Qi was born, he has fought in all directions without any defeat. This War King's projection is formed by condensing his invincible fighting spirit and his own way. The King of War projection only competes for fighting spirit. If the opponent is timid, he will be defeated without even fighting. Many geniuses who were watching the battle in the secret realm saw the projection of the War King slowly forming behind Yang Qi. They couldn't help but speak. Their voices were full of solemnity and even a hint of fear. For a moment, everyone there was a hint of pity in the eyes looking at the woman in white. They knew that Yang Qi had been exposed to the real fire and had used his strongest means. In the past, there were countless invincible geniuses in the Lotus King domain who were defeated. Under Yang Qi's move, the perfect state of mind was broken, and the Taoist heart was left with a shadow, and there was no further progress. Today, Yang Qi used this move against the enemy. Can this woman in white fight against it? The ruthless Emperor Jingjing standing there, he saw Yang Qi condensing the projection of the King of War. The eyes under the ghost mask were as calm as water, without any surprise or panic at all. Fighting intention? Maybe in the fairyland, it can shock these peaceful people for a long time, which has never been experienced before. There are many geniuses who are killed with iron blood. But how can the ruthless emperor from the lower world be shocked by this mere fighting spirit? In ancient times, which emperor and emperor did not push across the entire universe and defeat opponents from 10 directions? Fighting together to create an invincible emperor? In terms of fighting spirit, they are all invincible beings in the same realm. and the ruthless emperor is the best among them, how can he be afraid of a genius from the immortal realm? Boom! The ruthless emperor's white clothes spread out, and the corners of his clothes moved. An invincible fighting spirit even more majestic than that of Yang Qi came out of his body, and turned into a rolling torrent, covering the 9 days, and projecting towards the war king behind Yang Qi. And go! Such a majestic fighting spirit! Yang Qi finally changed his expression. In the rolling torrent of impact, he only felt an endless, noble, majestic, and extremely majestic fighting spirit, even far better than him. War! Yang Qi roared, and the battle network projection behind him moved together with him. Thousands of arms were waving, and countless magic weapons were swayed out to fight against the rolling torrent coming towards him. But the result was shocking. The torrent rolled over, and that thousands of divine weapons falling like stars were unable to stop them, so they collapsed one after another. The battle network projection could not persist for a few seconds, and was washed away by the torrent of fighting wool. This martial arts will end battle in an unexpected competition. Yang Qi was completely defeated. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 244. What? There is such a fighting spirit. Yang Qi kept retreating under the impact of the rolling torrent, and his heart was filled with shock. Who is he? A famous young prodigy of the younger generation in the Lotus King domain, who defeated the invincible opponents of his generation. He has already cultivated an invincible body. Invincible momentum. In usual duels with other geniuses, when he used this war king projection, the other party was already frightened and did not dare to fight against him. Even if he still had the strength to fight, he would still be defeated by his war king projection. Suppressed by Yang Qi, his strength was greatly reduced. How had the projection been directly dispersed by the opponent's condensed fighting spirit like now? The Empress move not only temporarily defeated Yang Qi, but also almost broke his invincible Taoist heart. Which field are you a genius in? Yang Qi asked in shock. The power of the ruthless emperor was far beyond his imagination. He really couldn't imagine that among his peers in the immortal realm, there was such a woman who could cultivate such a terrifying invincible fighting spirit. However, in the face of Yang Qi's shouting questions, the ruthless emperor had no intention of answering. She simply raised her hand lightly, made a spell, and then hit Yang Qi, simply and neatly. In the eyes of the ruthless emperor, Yang Qi has never been taken into consideration. She came to this secret realm today just to seize the fortune in this secret realm. Everything else is of no importance. Good. Then we'll fight again. Seeing that the ruthless emperor ignored his plan, Yang Qi sneered, suppressed the shock in his heart, gathered his invincible fighting strength, and slapped the ruthless emperor with a palm. Warlord of the sky! Yang Qi roared angrily, slapping out a palm, and his infinite fighting spirit gathered. In the void, the majestic and endless shadow of the King of War reappeared, like a supreme ruler, standing high above the 9 heavens, with indifferent eyes, overlooking the world, following Yang Qi. At the same time, a palm fell down, as if it was going to break the whole world into pieces. Buzz! The ruthless emperor raised his hand lightly and drew an inexplicable trajectory in the void, causing thousands of people to tremble. Something shocking happened. The void was torn apart, and pieces of crystal clear flowers of the avenue emerged in the boundless void, slowly rotating. Every rotation seemed to carry endless Tao charm, and there was even more unimaginable horror. The power is contained in it. With a thought, the flowers bloom and rule the world. Since the ruthless emperor entered the world of mortals, this magical method originally created by her in the past has been perfected to the extreme and reached a higher level. It is no longer a manifestation. Instead of the petals of the avenue, there are real flowers of the avenue emerging, all over the heaven and earth, the sky of the master of the avenue. The flowers of the avenue are slowly rotating all over the sky, and the ruthless emperor is dressed in white, standing among them, like a supreme empress, with unparalleled grace and elegance. Swipe. Following the movements of the ruthless emperor's jade fingers, the flowers of the avenue condensed by 10,000 rules rotated violently, causing endless crystal petals to fly, and flew towards Yang Qi and the other statues above their heads. The phantom of the War King attacks. Boom. When the endless avenue petals collided with the phantom of the War King above Yang Qi's head, an unparalleled terrifying collision was instantly triggered. Endless divine energy is raging across the sky, the void is completely shattered, and the endless chaotic chaos is so fierce that it seems to destroy the entire world, a scene of the end of the world. The terrifying and raging energy fluctuations even made the geniuses who were watching the battle couldn't help but retreat thousands of miles away, fearing that they would be affected by the aftermath of the battle between the two. At the same time, these geniuses could not help but feel filled with sighs and a touch of despair. Just the aftermath of the battle between the two was already too much for them to bear. If he really faced these two people, wouldn't he be instantly killed to pieces? This gap is simply despairing. But at the same time, all the geniuses were also surprised and shocked by the talent of the ruthless emperor. That's all for Yang Qi. After all, he has been fighting in the Lotus King territory for so many years and has already gained a great reputation. But the ruthless emperor was different. He had never manifested in the Lotus King's domain before. And the geniuses who have been to other immortal realms have never heard of the name of the ruthless emperor. Now, the ruthless emperor is unparalleled. Not only can he face off against Yang Qi, but he also seems to have the upper hand. The shock this has brought to many geniuses is naturally unparalleled. Who's winning? The result will be revealed soon. Will Yang Qi continue to defend his undefeated majesty, or will he become a stepping stone for the other party and create the beginning of another legend? Many geniuses looked at the direction of the fight between the two, eagerly anticipating it. It can be said that the result of this battle has a profound impact. Finally, the smoke and dust in the sky dissipated, the divine energy was restored, and the broken void returned to tranquility. And when after witnessing the result of the battle between the two, there was deathly silence in the secret realm. The ruthless emperor was dressed in white and stood gracefully above the 9 heavens. His white clothes were not even damaged at all. In comparison, Yang Qi was miserable. There were too many embarrassments. Not only was the phantom of the War King shattered, but there were also scars all over his body, his breath was erratic, and there was a shocking trace of blood hanging from the corner of his mouth. With just one move, Yang Qi was defeated and lost to Han the Great Emperor. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 245. After watching the ruthless emperor leave, Qin Mu looked at his system panel again. At this moment, the shock points he possesses have risen to 800 million. Just now, the ruthless emperor came to the restricted area, shocked the geniuses of all directions, and defeated Yang Qi, providing Qin Mu with a total of 300 million shocking points. Just when Qin Mu was about to leave this place of creation to arrange his next secret realm, he discovered that the shock points on the system panel began to slowly rise again. You get add 5412 shock points from Shenping. You get add 544 shock points from the sky. You get shocking points add 9845 from Wang Yuelang. You get from shocking points like a waterfall flood the screen like crazy. However, what is different from before is that the shock points obtained from a single person this time are not many. Most of them are thousands or hundreds, and some even do not even have 100 shock points. But this time there were so many people who provided Qin Mu with shocking points that it was difficult to count. The accumulation of sand makes a tower, and the accumulation of less becomes more. Although the shock points obtained by a single person are not many, the total number of shock points owned by Qin Mu on the system panel has begun to rise crazily. 800 million, 900 million, 1 billion. In the blink of an eye, the shock points harvested now exceed the shock points harvested just now by the ruthless emperor who shocked the world. The shock points have increased again. Qin Mu raised his eyebrows. The cruel emperor had just left, so the person who helped him gain shock points this time was definitely not the cruel emperor. But who could it be? Qin Mu closed his eyes slightly and sensed the heavens remotely. Vaguely, it seemed that there is a rolling river of time emerging behind Qin Mu. He is independent of the long river of time, and red light spots emerge from the long river of time and are connected to him, which is very mysterious. His cultivation has reached the quasi-immortal emperor realm. He has long had the special ability to sense and see the threads of fate of the creatures related to him. The red dots floating in the river of time are the creatures related to him. After just a brief investigation, Qin Mu knew what happened and where the shock points he possessed came from. So that's it, haha, I didn't expect that the few inheritances left behind at that time would finally support the human race. The lower world is finally worry-free. Qin Mu said calmly to himself, with a hint of admiration in his eyes. He already knew that everything that happened came from the lower world. The lower realm, in the vast universe. Ever since the ruthless emperor entered the ancient road of the netherworld, witnessed everything, and followed Qin Mu's footsteps into the immortal realm, the universe finally ushered in a rare period of peace and tranquility. And the human race also began to grow vigorously. Before, the ruthless emperor entered the ancient road of netherworld and ordered Ye Lingxiu and others to pacify the forbidden area in the world. And Ye Lingxiu, Gzi, Yunruoxi, and Queen Qiang also carried out the orders of the ruthless emperor very well, conquered the forbidden areas in all directions, and quelled the supreme chaos. But the time is too short after all. After some ancient supreme beings noticed the news, they escaped from the restricted area, or used concealment methods to hide their bodies and escape into the universe. Or by stealing the sky in exchange for the sun, they abandon their original decayed body, seize all sentient beings, and lurk secretly. Therefore, although all restricted areas have been cleared by Ye Lingxiu and the others, there are still a small number of ancient supreme beings who are still surviving. Moreover, when the ruthless emperor entered the ancient road of the netherworld, some of the dark aura escaped from the ancient road of the netherworld into the universe. Although most of them were blocked by Gzi and others, there were still a few who were absorbed by these surviving ancient supreme beings. Although they fell into darkness as a result, their strength also made great progress. It is precisely because of this that Jitsi and others later searched the universe and were unable to get rid of all these ancient supreme beings at the first time. And then the ruthless emperor entered the immortal realm and killed the immortal emperor along the way, but he did not kill the emperor's son. Because in the eyes of the ruthless emperor, the emperor was just an ant-like existence. If he didn't come forward, she had no intention of killing him. But this also led to the emperor's son surviving that battle. The surviving emperor's son bathed in the blood of the immortal emperor and received the complete inheritance of the immortal emperor and the immortal heavenly sword. At this moment, he has gone crazy and has no way to enter the fairyland to seek revenge from the ruthless emperor. He can only target the human race in the universe. Therefore, the Emperor of Heaven reached an agreement with the ancient supreme beings who survived in the universe to fight against Heimko and the other four. In the time since Qin Mu left the universe, the confrontation between the two parties has never stopped. The entire universe is also in a state of turmoil. If Jitsi and others hadn't worked hard to protect each other, I'm afraid the entire universe would have been plunged into war, and all life would have been devastated. However, Ye Lingxiu and others deserved to receive Qin Mu's inheritance. Although at the beginning, they were at a disadvantage in the battle between the two sides. But as time passed, Ye Lingxiu and others became more and more profound, and eventually killed all the ancient supreme beings, including the emperor. Completely pacified the world. After this, the human race could finally develop without any scruples. In just a few decades, under the leadership of Gzi and others, the human race was respected throughout the universe, while the ancient races fell into complete silence. So far, humanity has prospered. And the reason why there were so many shocking points just hit the screen. It's because GZI, Linxiu and the other four finally took that step. Under the witness of all the spirits in UNEI, they broke through the shackles, broke the immortal barrier, and successfully reached the immortal realm. Following the ruthless emperor, GZI, Linxiu, Yunruoxi, and Queen Xiang finally left the universe and arrived in the fairyland. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 246. Breaking the immortal realm requires the combined efforts of three mortal immortals. Originally, with the talents of GZI and others, it would take a lot of time to become a mortal immortal. But because the lower realm includes GZI and others, there are four existences above the Great Emperor realm in the human race. In addition, Qin Mu had previously taken action to break the Tianxin seal in this universe. Since then, this universe has no restrictions on the human race, making GZI and others' cultivation smoother and easier. Therefore, although they have not yet broken through to the mortal realm, they are only a thin line away from this realm. Coupled with the combined efforts of the four of them, they can successfully break through the barrier of the fairyland and enter the fairyland. Haha, the little guys have already entered the fairyland, so I have to hurry up with the next arrangements. After closing his eyes and sensing, Qin Mu couldn't help but smile after learning that Linxiu, Yunruoxi and others had entered the immortal realm. When he was in the lower realm, he laid out each game in order to guide the growth of the human race. Among them, there are still many games related to the immortal realm. Now, both the ruthless emperor, Linxiu, Yunruoxi and others have entered the immortal realm. What Qin Mu has to do at this time is to everything related to the fairyland in the past secret realm will continue. In this case, I have already thought about what to arrange for the next secret realm. Fu Ling has an average mind, and Qin Mu already has a plan in mind. He swayed and headed for the border of the immortal realm. This is an ancient and barbaric place. Billions of miles of desert are all no man's land, and there are all kinds of people in it. Dangerous, some dangerous places, even true immortals are in danger of falling. And the aura of heaven and earth here is barren, not even comparable to the lower world, it can be called a dead place. Precisely because of its danger and abnormality, the aura of heaven and earth is also it is close to drying up, so no fairyland creatures have ever arrived here. This is a truly uninhabited place. Just right here, that place is the most suitable place to be born here. Qin Mu looked around and nodded with satisfaction. He was very satisfied with the location he chose. The secret realm he was going to arrange next was very grand and covered a wide area. It could not be accommodated in ordinary places. And it was so sensational. If the secret realm is placed elsewhere, it will definitely arouse people's suspicion. After all, the secret realm is too grand and majestic. If it exists in other places, there is no reason why it should not be discovered. Only if it exists here can it be explained. Why has Tong been hiding in the fairyland without showing up? With my current shock points, I'm afraid it's difficult to completely arrange the secret realm, so I can only lay out part of it. But part of it is enough, and the rest can only be made up after enough shock points are obtained. Qin Mu thought and came to the secret space again. Manifest, part of the Sea of All Realms. After selecting on the system panel for a long time, Qin Mu finally locked his target. The Sea of 10,000 Realms. According to legend, it is made up of the debris of billions of worlds. It is the most dangerous and terrifying place in the world. A true fairyland expert can do nothing in it. If you don't go too far, you will fall. Even the Supreme Immortal King Realm expert will get lost in it if you are not careful and cannot find the way back. It is not uncommon to even fall in it. However, such a powerful thing, to fully manifest it, it would cost 5 billion shock points. With so many shock points, Qin Mu naturally did not have them at the moment. Therefore, he could only choose to manifest part of the Sea of 10,000 Realms first, and then use harvesting to harvest it. The shocking points will be filled up again. Anyway, the Sea of 10,000 Realms is so dangerous that even a strong person in the Immortal King realm cannot break through the part of the Sea of 10,000 Realms where Qin Mu appears. Therefore, the subsequent layout of the secret realm is also no need to worry about the risk of leakage. Boom. Following Qin Mu's thoughts, the shock points passed crazily, and in the blink of an eye, 1 billion shock points disappeared. And a majestic black ocean that is as far away as the world, extremely broad and majestic, surging, emerging in the secret space. This is an ocean that is extremely majestic and majestic. In the pitch-black water, the wreckage of one world after another, glowing with light fluorescence, is floating in the Black Sea. It's hard to imagine how many world wreckages there are. As the oceans fluctuate, world wreckage collides with each other, causing a shocking collision in an instant. The burst of waves is enough to instantly annihilate the existence of the Supreme Realm. Even a strong person in the true immortal realm will be seriously injured if he accidentally ends up in the center of the explosion. Phew, suddenly there was a wind blowing across the sea, not very fast, but even if it existed in a true fairyland, if it was blown by this wind, it would be in danger of falling. Because this is not an ordinary wind, but the wind of decay that blows when a world is being destroyed. The wind blew, the heaven and earth collapsed, and the world perished. If it blows on living creatures, most of them will die instantly without leaving even a trace. And this black ocean is so majestic and endless that even if it is only partially arranged by Qin Mu, it is still difficult to find the end. This is the Sea of 10,000 Realms that was revealed by Qin Mu. It is filled with endless dangers. It can definitely be so terrifying that it will make hundreds of millions of creatures in the immortal realm change their expressions and make even the powerful immortal king realm become extremely solemn. The situation. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 247. The majestic boundary sea is ups and downs, with an area of hundreds of millions of miles, and it is difficult to find the boundary. Just by looking at it, you can feel its grandeur and magnificence. In the secret space, Qin Mu looked at the boundless sea embodied by himself, with a hint of satisfaction in his eyes. He knew that once the secret realm was revealed, it would definitely bring unparalleled shock to the creatures in the fairyland. The shock points that can be provided to him are also massive. It's a pity that the current shock points are still slightly insufficient, otherwise the secret realm can be fully realized. Qin Mu couldn't help but sigh. The shock points required to manifest a complete boundary sea are too many. Qin Mu simply doesn't have so many shock points now. Moreover, in Qin Mu's conception, the realization of a boundary sea is just it is a part of the entire secret realm, and there are many secret realm levels that have not yet been unlocked. However, these need to be supported by a large amount of shock points. The shock points he currently has obviously cannot support him to fully realize the secret realm. Revealed. Now, part of the boundary sea has been revealed by Qin Mu. The main body of the secret realm has been completed. The next step is to complete other corner parts. Create a dam. Qin Mu thought, and in the void, a majestic dam stretching for billions of miles with no end in sight slowly formed, surrounding the boundary sea and isolating the boundary sea from the outside world. Materialize. Materialize. After manifesting several objects one after another, this secret realm was finally completed by Qin Mu. After the secret realm was manifested, Qin Mu left the secret realm space, and covered this secret realm with a peerless formation, and arranged it on the edge of this uninhabited and extremely dangerous fairyland. The next step is to let the creatures in the fairyland know the existence of this place. Qin Mu stood outside the wilderness and murmured to himself. The secret realm of the boundary sea has been realized, but this place is so deserted that no one knows about it. Unless Qin Mu makes some shocking movements here, will he be able to attract the immortals? The eyes of all sentient beings in the domain, but that is obviously too unsightly. Fortunately, the secrets laid out before should be put to use now. Qin Mu smiled slightly, and with the thought, billions of miles away, somewhere in the immortal realm, everything began to unfold according to his preset situation. Fairyland, Xianwang City. A majestic ancient monument stands in the center of Xianwang City. From time to time, many immortal creatures from Xianwang City come here to pay homage to this majestic ancient monument, their eyes full of reverence. This ancient stele is exactly the ancient sky stele that emerged from Qin Mu's body during the battle between the two frontiers that day and was engraved with the name of Desolation. After the war ended that day, King Xian took this ancient stele back from the wilderness on the edge of the immortal realm and erected it in King Xian City for the beings in the immortal realm in all directions to look up to. That Rihuang's achievements were publicized by King Xian. Therefore, all living beings in the immortal realm are naturally aware of the existence of Huang. For such a statue, the supreme existence of the immortal realm hundreds of millions of years ago has saved the entire immortal realm. Many creatures in the immortal realm are naturally grateful in their hearts. Therefore, in front of this ancient monument, there are often immortal realm creatures worshipping here day and night. Interest. At this time, tens of thousands of creatures were surrounding this ancient monument, worshipping and chanting Wang's name. But at a certain moment, the ancient monument that had been silent and peaceful suddenly started to tremble under the shocked and puzzled eyes of everyone. What's going on? Why is the sky monument trembling on its own? Is something going to happen? Go and report to Lord Xian. In front of the ancient monument, many creatures were shocked by the sudden changes in the monument, and planned to inform King Xian. After all, the things and secrets involved in this monument were too important to be treated with caution. However, before everyone planned to report to King Xian, the aura of supremacy began to spread here. King Xian, dressed in white robes, had already appeared in front of the heavenly monument. See Mr. Xian Wang. Tens of thousands of immortal creatures all bowed their heads and worshipped King Xian. Get up, everyone. King Xian spoke, but his eyes remained fixed on this heavenly monument, and his voice was even more solemn. All changes that happened in King Xian's domain could not escape his eyes. But other things usually, King Xian had no idea at all, but the significance of this heavenly monument was too extraordinary, so as soon as the change occurred, it attracted King Xian's attention and made him come here. Brush. Just before everyone, just after paying homage to King Xian, another supreme aura descended, and another creature whose aura was comparable to that of King Xian also appeared in front of the heavenly monument. See Lotus King. Seeing this creature coming, many immortal realm creatures worshipped again. It turned out that the second person who came here was none other than King Lotus. These days, King Lotus has been staying in King Xian's domain, discussing the Tao with King Xian. Therefore, the heavenly monument changed, and King Xian and King Lotus arrived together. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 248. Why does the sky monument tremble for no reason? Lian Wang looked at the ancient stele, his eyes full of doubts. Ever since King Xian brought the stele back, the stele has been silent and there is nothing strange about it. But now it suddenly trembles. Could it be that is something going to happen? I do not know either. King Xian said with the same solemn voice. An ancient heavenly stele that was built hundreds of millions of years ago should not have made King Xian and King Lotus so dignified. But at the edge of the immortal domain, King Xian has witnessed everything, and the stele is involved. There were several supreme beings from hundreds of millions of years ago, so they had no choice but to treat them with caution. Buzz. Just after King Xian and King Lotus gathered in front of the heavenly monument, the tremors of the ancient heavenly monument became more intense, and the surrounding void began to become unstable, and vaguely, an ancient aura began to spread around. It contained the power of time and reincarnation, grand and supreme, and gave people a vague feeling of worship, even if therefore, the immortal kings of King Xian and King Lotus can't help but feel breathless and looking up at this moment. Eccentric. Xian Wang waved his big hand, and an invisible formation was isolated around the square. Although this heavenly monument is related to the supreme existence of the fairyland hundreds of millions of years ago, for the sake of the other fairyland creatures in Xianwang City, for the sake of safety, King Xian still isolated this place with a large formation. However, although the large formation isolated many immortal realm creatures, it did not cut off their perception and sight. Therefore, everything that happened next to the sky monument, Xian, all the creatures in the royal city are still aware of it. At this moment, faced with the changes in the heavenly monument, all the creatures in Xianwang City were alarmed. They gathered around the large formation arranged by King Xian and looked in the direction of the heavenly monument. Eyes filled with confusion and shock. What happened? The two masters, King Xian and King Lotus, actually showed up. The ancient heavenly monument brought back by Mr. Xianwang from the wilderness of the immortal realm, and inscribed with the name of the supreme being in our immortal realm hundreds of millions of years ago, suddenly began to tremble for no reason, which attracted the attention of the two kings Xianwang and Lianwang. The Lord has arrived. Why did the sky monument begin to tremble for no reason? Could it be that the supreme being from hundreds of millions of years ago was about to arrive? Thinking of this, some creatures in the immortal realm couldn't help but become extremely excited. Before, King Xian didn't deliberately hide the battle in the wilderness at the edge of the immortal realm, so it spread throughout the entire immortal realm in a short period of time. The deeds of killing kings with 1 against 4 are also widely spread in the fairyland. For such a supreme being in the fairyland that lived hundreds of millions of years ago, many creatures in the fairyland have feelings of reverence and worship in their hearts. In fact, they were very disappointed that they were not at the edge of the fairyland that day to witness all this with their own eyes. But now, the sky monument began to tremble again, and it was suspected that the supreme being named Huang hundreds of millions of years ago was about to come again. Which naturally makes many immortal creatures excited and inexplicable. Boom! Just when many creatures in the fairyland are eagerly looking forward to the arrival of the legendary existence, the ancient monument suddenly let out a roaring sound that shook the earth. Immediately afterwards, the endless aura of chaos filled the void, radiating in all directions and shattering the void for thousands of miles. In the tens of thousands of miles of space above that monument, there is an ancient scene slowly emerging. It is an endless black ocean, vast and boundless, and it is difficult to describe how majestic it is. But the ocean is the purest black, full of weirdness and ominous flavor, which makes people feel chilled. What shocked all living beings in the immortal realm even more was that on the dark ocean, there were actually clusters of 9-colored light clusters floating in it. In the light group, the chaotic energy was hazy, and one broken world after another was vaguely visible. It turned out to be the wreckage of one world after another, floating in the boundless black ocean. Many world wrecks are floating endlessly in the dark ocean. Occasionally, if two world wrecks collide together, it will cause a shocking collision, causing the void to collapse and hundreds of millions of miles around to turn into nothingness. With that shocking force of collision, even a true immortal would be in danger of falling if he was not careful. What makes many immortal creatures even more horrified is that on that dark ocean, there are not only countless world wreckage, but also many corpses washed by the sea water, floating in it. The bones are all different and belong to different races, but one thing is the same, that is, the bones are all glowing with a faint fluorescence, and there is an inexplicable Taoist charm flowing on them. There is no doubt that the owner of those bones was an extremely powerful being during his lifetime. But in the end, they all fell into this boundless black ocean. Oh my god. So much world wreckage. What the hell is this place? In the bones, I felt such a majestic power, I am afraid it is an existence above the true fairyland. The powerful ones in the supreme realm may not be able to leave their skeletons in this black ocean. Only those who are above the true immortal realm can leave their skeletons here. A black ocean, carrying so many world wreckage and the bones of strong men, where is this place? Many immortal creatures are inexplicably shocked. Even King Xian and King Lotus are the same. In fact, they want to know where this place is more than other creatures in the immortal realm. Why does the sky monument tremble and appear like this? What a sight! You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 249. The ancient sky monument trembled, presenting such a mysterious and terrifying scene that shocked the world forever. No one knows where the scene reflected by the sky monument is. Does it belong to ancient times, or does it still exist today? King Lotus and King Xian, with their eyes filled with divine light, looked at the scene reflected in the sky monument, waiting for the next change. Although they don't know where the scene mapped by the ancient sky monument is, they know it. The monument will never be aimless. Since it reflects such a scene, it naturally makes sense. Boom! Just when King Xian and King Lotus were waiting in full formation, and the other sentient beings in the immortal realm were eagerly waiting, the ancient heavenly monument trembled again. The ancient scene floating in the void also changed again. The boundless black waves surged across the world, and time seemed to have flown backwards, looking back to the endless years before, showing a more ancient and eternal scene. Above the majestic Black Sea, corpses one after another rose from the Black Sea, and then formed flesh and blood, becoming creatures one after another, crossing the majestic ocean. Those creatures belong to different races, and many of them have never been heard of before. But there is only one thing in common, and that is that they are both extremely powerful. Endless divine light shrouded each of these terrifying creatures, splitting the nearby void, resisting the invasion of black waves. The weakest of these radiant creatures are at the peak of true immortal cultivation, and most of them are as supreme as the Xian King Lotus King, and are supreme beings in the immortal King realm. So many immortal King realm creatures. King Xian was shocked. Not to mention having seen it before, he had never even heard of so many immortal King realm creatures in the world. And now, on this majestic Black Sea, there are so many immortal King realm creatures. Moreover, these appearing immortal King realm creatures were formed by looking back in time and emerging from the corpses in the boundless sea. In other words, many of these powerful and terrifying creatures have fallen into this mysterious and terrifying land. In the ocean. Where is this place? So many immortal King realm creatures are rushing to cross the sea, and for what purpose? Could it be that the end of this boundless sea is the legendary other shore? As long as you cross this sea, can we successfully ascend to another realm? In the minds of King Xian and King Lotus, the only reason that can make so many immortal King realm beings cross the sea is the temptation to break through to a higher realm. Otherwise, there is no way at all. Explain that in this place where the beings in the immortal King realm are in danger of falling, there are still so many immortal King realm creatures fighting to move forward. After all, the immortal King realm beings are already the supreme beings in this world, and they are worthy of being. The sky cannot be buried, the earth cannot be destroyed, the heaven and earth decay but the true body remains forever. For these immortal creatures, time has long lost its meaning. Only breaking through to a higher realm is their only pursuit. The opportunity to break through the immortal king. King Xian murmured. He thought about the situation. If such an opportunity really existed in front of him, I am afraid he would not be able to help but be moved. Even if he knew that crossing the sea would be in danger of death, he would take the risk. But, where is such a sea? Since it is reflected by the ancient sky monument, it is very likely that it existed in the fairyland in the past. But why have I never heard of such a place? Just when King Xian and King Lotus were confused, the heavenly monument trembled again, and a majestic nine-color light pillar shot out from the heavenly monument, spanning hundreds of millions of miles, towards the end of the distant immortal realm. It seems to have some kind of connection with a certain place. Go check it out. Xian Wang and Lian Wang looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. Because other immortal realm creatures may not be able to sense it, but as beings in the immortal king realm, they can sense it. In that distant place at the end of the immortal realm, the ancient and wild lands seemed to have undergone some kind of change. The scene displayed by the ancient sky monument seemed to have reappeared there. I don't know if these changes are a blessing or a curse for our immortal realm. Lian Wang let out a long and worried sigh, and together with Xian Wang, they quickly walked towards the place where the nine-color light beam emitted from the ancient sky monument was pointing. At the same time, not only Xian Wang and Lian Wang, but also some immortals, the ancient existences in the domain, were all alarmed. Because the nine-color light beam almost spanned the entire immortal domain, no one could ignore its existence. What happened? A nine-color divine light penetrates the entire fairyland. Looking at the direction from which the divine light is coming, it seems to be in the Xianwang domain, and the place it points to seems to be at the border of the immortal domain. No matter what happens, go check it out. No matter what, he had been sleeping for hundreds of millions of years, but now he was awakened and came back to life, just in time to see what happened. At this moment, many powerful beings were awakened, and even some old antiques who had been sleeping all the time were awakened from their slumber. Like the Xian King and the Lotus King, they walked towards the place pointed by the nine-color light pillar. Go. The originally quiet and serene immortal realm is now shaking and boiling because of this incident. I don't know how many masters are running towards the place where the nine-color light pillar is pointing. They all want to know what happened. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 250. The immortal realm, which has been silent for a long time, is now boiling with excitement due to the display of the boundary sea. I don't know how many ancient beings were awakened from their slumber for hundreds of millions of years, and like the Xian King Lotus King, walked towards the place where the nine-color light beam shot. At this moment, there is an unknown quiet place somewhere in the fairyland. The ruthless emperor, dressed in white as snow, sat quietly cross-legged. A petal of 9 colors was suspended above her head, spinning quietly. Every time it rotates, all kinds of fragments of the Tao will be sprinkled downwards, and they will be scattered on the body of the ruthless emperor, helping her to understand the 10,000 ways of the immortal realm, which is very magical. At this moment, the ruthless emperor is entering an extremely mysterious state, like a great dream for eternity. Every moment, thousands of Tao principles enter his body. The enlightenment in an instant is worth thousands of years of suffering in an ordinary state. Build. This is the strange thing about the 10,000 Dao flowers. If all the 10,000 Dao flowers are absorbed, the ruthless emperor's cultivation will surely reach a higher level, and he will truly reach the perfection of the true immortal realm. Time passed by minute by second, and while the ruthless emperor was concentrating on absorbing the thousands of immortal realm principles in the one Dao flower, the 9-color light beam that penetrated the entire immortal realm appeared, naturally alarming the ruthless emperor who was practicing. She looked up at the sky, looking at the majestic pillar of light that almost cut the entire immortal realm in half. A mixture of doubt and shock flashed in her eyes. She paused her enlightenment, stood up, and looked into the distance, trying to see clearly what was going on. But unfortunately, the borderlands of the immortal realm are too far away from here. Even with the strength of the ruthless emperor, he cannot see the scenery in the distance clearly. But at this moment, several true immortals passed by here. They all came from the Xianwang domain and wanted to follow the 9-color light pillar to find out. and it was the content of their conversation that made the ruthless emperor know everything. The ancient heavenly monument actually moved, causing such a big commotion. I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse. Yes, the map scene is really too terrifying. Even if the immortal king is there, it is nothing. It is really the most evil and weird place in the world. After all, this sky monument was left behind by my fairyland, so there must not be much danger. King Xian and King Lotus have gone, and many other adults will also wake up from their slumber. Don't worry, with King Xian and other adults sitting in charge, the immortal realm will be safe. Several powerful people from the true immortal realm were passing by here while talking. And the content of their conversation also made the ruthless emperor know what happened. In King Xian's domain, the ancient heavenly monument changes. The ruthless emperor murmured to himself, a strange color flashing in his eyes. After coming to the immortal realm, she also visited the Xianwang realm some time ago. She also already knew the origin of that ancient monument. However, the ruthless emperor felt very upset at that time. After all, she failed to catch up with the battle at the edge of the fairyland. If we go there, we might be able to get more clues from Wang's mouth. After all, a drop of his blood in the past had also manifested in the lower world. And now, the ancient heavenly monument that is suspected to be related to Huang is moving again. Has something happened? Originally, although the ruthless emperor was shocked by the sudden appearance of the nine-color light pillar, she still planned to integrate the energy of Wandehua first before dealing with other matters. But now, after learning that the incident that happened was probably related to Huang, the ruthless emperor finally couldn't wait any longer. Without any hesitation, she caught up with the departure of the few true immortals before and walked towards the edge of the immortal realm. Borderland of Fairyland. You receive shocking points from King Xian Plus. You receive shock points from Lotus King Plus. You receive shocking points from the Ancient King Plus. You receive shocking points add 114-1331 from Chunhua Shang. You receive from. Qin Mu stood on the boundless desert and looked into the distance. He had a panoramic view of everything that happened in the entire fairyland. When he saw his arrangement and stirred up the endless storm in the immortal realm, a smile appeared on the corner of Qin Mu's mouth. The changes that happened to the monument with the name of Huang engraved on it were naturally led by Qin Mu. And the final result is all under his control. The entire fairyland was alarmed, and even many sleeping antiques woke up from their slumber. Come on, the fun is yet to come. Qin Mu glanced at his own panel. At this moment, he had gained nearly 500 million shock points and he was one step closer to his goal. Then, Qin Mu flashed, hiding his traces here. And then not long after Qin Mu hid his figure, two figures with an aura as powerful as the abyss, shocking the world, appeared here first. The two people who arrived first were none other than King Lotus and King Xian. That picture turned out to be real. After arriving here, King Xian's soul only poked out for a brief exploration, and he already knew everything. During his exploration, a hole was torn open in the depths of this ancient and wild land behind the boundless void. There is a piece of extremely pure black. There are countless light spots, rising and falling on that piece of pure black. It is exactly what was reflected by the ancient sky monument that I saw in Xianwang City before. What a sight!